All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 800-610-7035. Our email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our main website, xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is William Buhlman. And William is a best-selling author and leading expert on the subject of out-of-body experiences. The author's 40 years of extensive personal out-of-body explorations gives him a very unique and thought-provoking insight into this subject. His first book, Adventures Beyond the Body, chronicles his personal journey of self-discovery through out-of-body travel and provides the reader with the preparation and techniques that can be used for their own adventures. William conducts an in-depth 6-day workshop titled Out-of-Body Exploration Intensive at the Monroe Institute. As a certified hypnotherapist, William incorporates various methods, including hypnosis, Hemi-Sync, visualization, and meditation techniques in his workshops to explore the profound nature of out-of-body experiences and the benefits of accelerated personal development. Through lectures, workshops, and his book, William teaches the preparation and techniques of spiritual exploration. His latest book, Exonation, is titled Adventures in the Afterlife, and it's available on Amazon.com. Joining me now is William Buhlman. And William, it's always a great pleasure having you here in the X Zone.
Hi, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here again.
William, have there been any revelations since you and I last talked when it comes to out-of-body experiences?
Well, there's always a lot of, I guess, now that you mention it, probably the biggest revelation, so to speak, is just the number of people that are having experiences.
Really?
I think it's opening up, and people are beginning to share their experiences where they never have before, and millions of people are just talking about the subject in general. Because in the past, a lot of attention was given to near-death experiences. And I think now more and more people are realizing that out-of-body experiences are a natural state. I mean, people are having these experiences on a regular basis. In fact, a lot of the lucid dreams even, are actually out-of-body experiences.
Really?
For instance, if you're fully aware and conscious, and you're in this altered state, and you're interacting in this objective reality, we have a tendency to label this in many different ways, but often these experiences are what today is called out-of-body, or our consciousness is expressing itself beyond the limits of our physicality. I mean, it's awakening, I think, of mankind, really, to our full potential.
But William, in your opinion, you've been doing this for many years. Why are more and more people turning on to out-of-body experiences?
Well, I think it's an awareness of what it truly is. That's what's happening. Let's face it, 40 years ago, nobody even talked about this.
That's true.
You wouldn't even share it with your friend because people would belittle you or look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Now I see bumper stickers and with it, don't bug me, I'm having an out-of-body experience. It's becoming a part of our culture.
How does that make you feel?
Because of this,
how does that make you feel, knowing that you are one of the leaders in this new realm?
Well, it's what I find amazing. It's really not a new realm at all. I mean, this is a part of what we are. When you turn it around, we are non-physical beings having a physical experience. So isn't it only natural that all of us can re-experience our true self, which is non-physical, or spiritual, whatever term you want to give it. It's people are awakening to the essence of who and what they are, and I think that's what's exciting.
But what was it that brought the focus back to near-death experiences? Was it our quest for longevity? Was it our quest for trying to find proof that life surpasses death, or that we are part of a multi-dimensional universe, multi-dimensional existence? What was it?
Well, I think there was a lot of elements come together. Number one, medical science began to, let's face it, people used to die and not be brought back. Yeah. And now, in the last 20 years especially, medical science has had breakthroughs where many people are coming back from the brink, so to speak, of what they used to call death, which is an altered state, of course, a shift of consciousness. And they're remembering these experiences. And now it's becoming more normal for people to actually remember. What
Bill, I hate to do this. We've got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Exonation. William Buhlman is our special guest. astralinfo.org. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. We're talking this hour with William Buhlman. We're talking about out-of-body experiences. We're talking about out-of-body techniques. And William has a new book out. It's entitled Adventures in the Afterlife, and it's available at Amazon.com. We had to go to the commercial break, William, and I'm sorry that I had to cut you short there, but what are we learning about life as we know it from people who go to that brink in a near-death experience and come back?
Well, we learn, number one, that we are a non-physical species that are just temporarily visiting and using a biological vehicle for experience. And in other words, and we also learn that there's many, many different kinds of realities, non-physical realities that exist, and that we are multidimensional beings. And that, in other words, all of these things that we grew up with, this focus on the physical world as the epicenter of all reality, is incorrect. This is just the epidermis. This is the end result of a chain of energy events. And the physical world is just the thin outer crust of reality. And as we die, we're moving into a less dense, whereas we make this transition of consciousness in an out-of-body experience or near-death experience, and is often in trance states, we are entering this this vast non-physical realm, which is truly our home. And that's what's true. That's what I find amazing. So we're beginning to actually learn about ourselves and the important things, like what are we, where did we come from, where are we going? And this is like this. It's an awakening of consciousness, I feel, of all of humanity, and we're beginning to ask the real questions about ourselves and what we are, and getting past the dogma and all the flawed belief systems that have hindered this exploration of consciousness that's so important to all of us.
So why do you think that we've had this misconception and that we've been filled with a misconception about our existence, who we are? Who did this to us?
Well, I think in a sense we've done it to ourselves by accepting belief systems as the dominant force. Let's face it, we're all born in some kind of belief system, whether it's a religious belief system, then we're surrounded by people that were totally self-identified with a physical body as the core of our identity. And those two issues have essentially, there's no doubt about it, they've conditioned us to believe that the answers are not possible to obtain. I've talked to many people who said, "Well, I'll find out when I die." That's not the answer. We have the ability, and that's what I find exciting. We have the ability to discover the answers for ourselves by extending our consciousness beyond the physical body. This is what mystics have done for 10,000 years. This is what shamans have done. This is what all the biblical text, I was in the spirit. I don't care what religion it is. The core of every religion, if you strip away the facade, you will find that there is an experience. Somebody journeyed beyond their body and explored this other reality that exists. And what is this at its very nature but an out-of-body experience? So this has been a part of everything that we've had throughout humanity, back to the Egyptian days. And every culture has talked about it, but it's been cloaked in this mysticism, this often religious mysticism. And now is the time I think people are awakening to this and say, hey, I can do this myself. I can be empowered to have my own experience. I don't have to depend on religions. I don't have to depend on science to give me these half-baked answers. You know, we have the power to obtain the answers.
And I guess the main important we don't have to wait until we're dead to find out and experience this feeling.
Exactly. Well, it's a knowledge, because there is no belief system attached to out-of-body exploration. You have your own experience. You determine the reality of it. There's no dogma. There's none of that is attached to this. That's what makes it so empowering. You know, for over 20 years, I've been teaching people just to have their own experience. You label it. I don't even use the word spiritual. It's your experience. You judge it, you determine, and then it's mind-blowing when you realize, oh my God, that was real. I'm a non-physical being. I exist beyond my body. You know, this is when you strip away all the stuff we've been taught, that is what every prophet throughout the ages have been saying. And you don't have to be special. There's no special skills. It's about learning how to quiet the mind and do some techniques that will help you to expand your awareness beyond the outer limits, which is your dense body. It's natural.
Tell me, can more than one person experience the same out-of-body experience?
Yes, and it's been reported throughout. Yes, it's for instance, Richard Bach talks about the well-known writer Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. He writes about, this goes on, but I mean, I'm just using one example.
Sure.
He writes about his experience with Leslie, his wife, where they floated up through the ceiling together, both of them fully conscious. This happens especially if you're with a loved one. You have to be in close resonance with one another, same goal. And this has been reported on many, many different cultures, and even in religions it's been talked about. St. Paul talks about it. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day. And then whether in the body or out of the body, then he reports I'm in the third heaven. He didn't say heaven. He talks about I was in the third heaven, which I found very interesting. He's very precise because he realized that there were multiple dimensions. They just called them heavens. And that is what we've been learning. There's millions of different realities, and they're created by group thought. I call them consensus realities. And when people die, they enter these consensus realities because the non-physical universe is incredibly thought responsive. And when you get a collective of any number of people, it could be 10 or it could be 10 million, they create reality with their thoughts, by their expectations of what reality should be. So it's an exciting exploration.
During your research, have you found any correlation between the people who are seeking the experience and who are starting to believe in near-death experiences and I shouldn't say near-death experience, but out-of-body experiences?
Well, you know what I found interesting? It doesn't matter what you believe. That's one of the things that I found especially. Matter of fact, the less beliefs that you have, the better off you are, because every belief is like an anchor that weighs you down, because most man-made beliefs are flawed. And I can't think of one that isn't on some level. So, because it's all centered on physicality and the density of matter, where that's not what we are. So those that don't have beliefs have an advantage over those that do, actually, in many ways, because they're more free to experience the nature, the true nature of their experience, the core of that experience.
But how do we know that an out-of-body experience is real and not a manifestation of our unconsciousness or our consciousness?
Well, that's a good question. I call it testing. You can test your reality.
Okay.
You have to, often through recurring experiences. For instance, people contact loved ones. And what I always say is test it. Don't take anything for granted. Always try to confirm every experience you have through multiple experiences. Many people, for instance, have some kind of communication with loved ones who have passed. I have with my mother on many occasions, especially within the first 5 years of her death. And this occurred, and to me, one time was shocking. But after multiple times, and it was a continuous conversation, for lack of a better word, I knew it was real for me. And that's how people confirm their experiences, I feel. Because you're right, it's a very subtle environment. It's very, and it's a thought-responsive environment. So you have to always be on guard about other, let's just say, the mental images coming into play. But I think you have to get to the point where through multiple experiences, you gain a knowledge that, yes, this is confirmed because I have re-experienced this same kind of reality, for instance, and same kind of person on multiple occasions.
While you're having an out-of-body experience, can you go forward and backwards in time?
Well, absolutely. One of the things, and I know this may sound strange to some people, but the non-physical world has no time as we perceive it. There is no molecular decay. We sometimes overlook the fact that time is a tracking of molecular decay. Aging, for instance. There's no aging in the non-physical world. Everything is stable as long as a thought is maintained. The consensus realities remain stable. And yes, I have found that if you are open to it, matter of fact, I teach exercises, I teach approaches and protocols where you can, during an out-of-body experience, you center yourself, and then you can actually open up and demand to experience your own timeline. In other words, now I experience my past life. And then be open to the experience and see what happens. Then you judge the reality. Each individual has to be just aware enough, but also open-minded enough to judge each experience for their own validity.
All right, William,
and
please.
I think this is what's important.
All right, William, please stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, William Buhlman is our special guest. His new book is entitled Adventures in the Afterlife. It's available on Amazon.com. For more information on William, his website is astralinfo.org. We'll be back on the other side of this break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Exonation, William Buhlman is my special guest this hour, www.astralinfo.org. His new book is entitled Adventures in the Afterlife, and it's available at Amazon.com. William, what happens if somebody goes back in time or forward in time comes back with information, or while they are there, sees or hears something that may in fact alter the future or the past. Does that mean the dimension in which they are in no longer exists? How does this work?
Well, the whole idea backwards and forwards, and I use the statement, there is no time. I don't believe, or I have not found that there is actually a progression. It's hard for our minds to accept the concept of simultaneous now. And we can't wrap our minds around it. But that seems to be the reality that I and others have experienced. So this concept of this future is maybe we look at life in a linear fashion. Mm-hmm. This, something happened, now something's going to happen next. But what if none of that is really true? What if it's all simultaneous, and as pure consciousness, we have the ability to perceive all timelines because of the expansive nature of our true self? And I'm not the only one who's brought this forward, but in a sense, this is what often the Buddhists have talked about for years, about this concept of a no-time existence. So there's no way to, let's say, interfere with an event because you're seeing something that's about to occur, which can happen. I mean, some people report that, of course. Mm-hmm. But we have to open up to a wider perception, I think, of what we are. The main thing is to learn how to explore your multidimensional self, because that's what we are. And the more we gain from personal exploration, in other words, we become the Columbuses, we become the Leif Eriksons, we become the explorers. Then you make the judgment call about how you perceive reality on a grander or broader spectrum of vision. Because when you leave your body, you're going into the substructure of matter. You're going beyond. You're going into the formational stages. People actually experience, in a way, the thought formation of their own potential futures. And it gets a little bit, well, that's why I do a 6-day workshop.
I guess.
Because this is reality. This is about people having their own experiences, and then they make the determination. But all of the old rules that we have learned about what is the center point of reality, that, in other words, that matter is the central point, and we make all judgments from this dense starting point, is all flawed because we're non-physical beings. And this is what I and others have found, is that the physical world is like a slowed-down training ground for consciousness. We learn by being, by becoming, by being who we wish to learn and what we wish to learn. You know, what I always say is that you could read 100 books. Like as a man, I could read 100 books on being a woman, but I would not know what it's like until I become a woman. And that's what I feel is part of a main purpose of the physical world. We become that which we wish to learn.
So it sounds as if this is a natural state for us. But if this is a natural state for us, William, why does it take someone like you to teach those who apparently have the ability to do what you're teaching them to do? Why isn't it inherent?
Because it is, but it's been lost because of our obsession with form, our identification. We've wrapped ourselves in flawed belief systems, and we have identified ourselves from birth as being a physical body. And this is what we create our own blocks. We create our own limits by the way that we perceive. That's why in Buddhism, monks are selected in a very young age and taken away from their families to be trained, because they want them to begin to experience this exploration of consciousness, at least beyond in other words, remove them from the consensus reality of beliefs, so they can be trained to explore in a different way.
However, there are those who believe that these children are taken at an early age to be brainwashed. It's all a matter of perception, isn't it not? It's a matter of perception. I, of course, am not a member of any religion.
And because I feel, I can see exactly what you mean. I was using that as strictly as an example of separating yourself from the consensus reality. We have to go beyond all belief systems. We have to begin to train ourselves, I feel. It's very important to go beyond, to begin to experience ourselves so that we can make that judgment. And it's a matter of learning. It's like learning meditation. Out-of-body techniques are no different than meditation. Matter of fact, I call it out-of-body meditations. You train yourself to have your own experiences by what people consider an expansion of consciousness or projection of consciousness beyond the body. And then you decide what's real for you.
Okay, that makes sense. So once again, I'm having a bit of a problem understanding if this is the old ways and if this has been done in the past and there were still the dogmas of religions and different beliefs, why now has this resurfaced? Why wasn't...
Mostly because...
Yeah.
I think it's because people are naturally beginning to have these experiences, whether it be induced by near-death, which is one of the elements of a near-death experiences, according to Dr. Raymond Moody, is an out-of-body experience, separation of consciousness. It's become a part of our culture, and people are waking up to the fact that, hey, I'm not my physical body. I'm more than my physical body, and as such, why can't I begin to explore beyond my physical body in full conscious awareness? And I think this was a radical topic 40 years ago. It wasn't even discussed 40 years ago. They called it astral projection, and it was considered a mystical art. And it was talked about in closed circles. But now it's opening up to a wider, let's face it, to everyone. Everybody knows now what an out-of-body experience pretty much is. It's a movement of consciousness beyond the body. And it's become, people can talk about it. People are opening up to the fact that I can discuss this without being ridiculed.
Sure. So are we saying that...
When I grew up, that was not the case.
Are we saying then we have outgrown or outmatured established religions that we need to start thinking of our own on our own? Is it time where the sheep need to leave the flock because we don't need the shepherd anymore?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. We have, many of us, obviously, not everybody, but millions of people have got to the point in their lives where they no longer need to be told by the priestcraft what to do and how to do it and what to think. We have been liberated from that in many ways, and now we're learning different methods. Why is yoga becoming so incredible? Same reason. There's a lot of paths that people follow. Out-of-body exploration is just one of them. But a classic example is yoga. My God, nobody knew what yoga was in America 40 years ago. Now everybody's doing it, seems like. Community colleges are teaching all kinds of yoga, not just physical yoga, but Raja, yoga of the mind, many different forms of it. So we are opening up. I think we're a curious species, and we want to know the answers, and we're looking for methods to obtain the answers for ourselves. And out-of-body exploration is one of those methods. It's not for everybody, but it's a method that many people are awakening to because people are naturally having experiences beyond their body. When you wake up paralyzed, for instance, Rob, and you can't move your body, you're seeing through closed eyelids, you have already made that transition. Sleep paralysis is the perfect launch point for out-of-body exploration. Very few people know that. When I train people to embrace sleep paralysis and remain calm and react to it, and then begin to direct your consciousness away from your body. But most people don't know that. Instead, what do people have? Fear is associated with it. I can't move my body.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. And the opposite is really true. It's an opening of consciousness to explore beyond. There are certain classic things that occur, and these are happening naturally for people. I get thousands of letters from children that are having experiences. Nobody's teaching them techniques. They're suddenly just floating out of their body or rolling. They're getting this sleep paralysis, and then suddenly they're experiencing themselves beyond their body. And their parents don't know how to handle it because they don't know what's going on. And these things, they're natural because we're non-physical beings. It's just a time to get more mature about it and learn about it in a non-religious format. We're beyond the dogmas, beyond the fear-based beliefs.
So how can people know when they're on the verge of having an out-of-body experience, and how do they know not to panic, that what they're feeling in the case of sleep paralysis, that this is a natural sensation, that you're on the cusp of having an out-of-body experience?
Well, first you just have to learn about how many, you pick up good information where you have insight into this topic. Let's look at it just logically. You must, for consciousness to move beyond the body, there has to be a disconnect between the body and, let's just call it, the mind, or what I call the energy body. And that is what sleep paralysis offers. Or this, suddenly you have to disconnect. Suddenly your energy body must shift beyond the physical limits. Sleep paralysis provides that, just call it, biological method to disconnect the body so that you can separate. Now, I know there's a lot of negative connotations to this, but that's because of our culture. It's a natural state. Many people waken in the middle of the night and they suddenly find themselves, the other one is looking through closed eyelids. It means you've already made the shift. It's a matter of how you respond. Once you're knowledgeable about it and you know what's happening to you or your children, then you can train yourself to remain calm and react with a purpose and intention. In other words, that's the perfect time to use your affirmations like door now. You focus your attention beyond the body. People don't know that, so they linger in that state and they become fearful. But the way to respond is door now. Focus your conscious awareness beyond your body, and that will initiate separation from the body.
How does somebody know if they're looking through their eyelids?
Generally, you'll be able to see in a dark room. You're in your bed, you're laying there, it's pitch black, you suddenly awaken and you notice that everything is lighter and you can begin to see your environment. That is a clear indication because the non-physical realities are generally brighter to some extent. I'm not talking about daylight, but it'll be brighter than almost like a moonlight. And that is a clear indication for many people. Also, some people, it's a crowded world. It's a crowded, multidimensional universe. There may be activity going on in your environment. That is an indication. But often people will feel this, it's a floating sensation or a sinking sensation or just energy, vibrational. It's called the vibrational state. It's a common term, which means phenomena that's occurring. Often there's a vibration that's running through the individual energetically. And it's like electrical pulses moving through you, waves of energy moving through you. That's not a physical experience. It's a non-physical experience. And once you learn what to look for and learn how to respond to all this vibrational state phenomena, you can begin to use these experiences to begin to explore your non-physical self. You can begin to explore that non-physical reality. And that's the beginning of this awakening that, oh my God, I exist beyond my brain. I exist beyond. I'm totally logical. I'm thinking logically, and I'm existing, and there my body is, and could be miles away. It doesn't matter. And that is a big moment for people because it provides personal verification of their own immortality and of what their true nature may be. And that is a life-changing event for millions and millions of people.
Is there any chance the person can't get back to their body?
No, because any random thought actually the problem is the other way. Any random thought will snap you back to your body.
Is that
feels like
jolt?
You're being snapped back.
Is that
Yes.
jolt people feel?
Absolutely. When people sleep, they hover out of phase with their body. Mm-hmm. I've observed this in many other people that I've talked to over the last 40 years. When we move into sleep, what is actually happening is, I'm not saying we float up at the ceiling,
right?
But sleep, we are moving out of phase. Our energy body is moving out of phase with our physical body. It may only be a half an inch. That is the disconnect that occurs during sleep. That's a recharging process. And when you feel that slam back or falling back into your body, that's your mind's interpretation of the reconnect that's occurring. Everybody leaves their body every night, but they just move out of phase. I want to emphasize this. Mm-hmm. Most people are just out of phase. When you observe someone out of body that's sleeping, it looks like a double image.
I see.
Because you're seeing that out of phase state.
Okay, William,
this applies to animals as well.
You and I have to take our final break for this hour. X-Zone Nation, a good friend of the X-Zone, William Buhlman, is our guest. Astralinfo.org is his website, and William's new book is entitled Adventures in the Afterlife, and it's available at Amazon.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone, but wrapping up this hour with our special guest once again, William Buhlman, and his website is astralinfo.org. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. William Buhlman is our special guest this hour. His website is astralinfo.org, and his latest book, which is available on Amazon.com, is Adventures in the Afterlife. William, I understand you're also doing some courses with the Monroe Institute.
Yes, for the last 5 years, I've been doing a 6-day, quite intensive course that is I'm very excited about. It's during the course, we're talking about, this is about personal experience. Mm-hmm. People in this class over the course of these days, that we have over 24 techniques that we do in there. Each person has their own check unit. The Monroe Institute's a perfect place to explore consciousness. You're not laying on the floor. Everybody is in their own kind of like cubicle, hollow point, and I speak to them using technology like Hemi-Sync and other sound technology through headphones, and everyone basically enters a deep meditative state in their own space, and it's like almost like a simulated float chamber, for lack of a better word. And it gives people a great opportunity to explore their own consciousness, and to go deep. It's an exciting class because it's all about each individual having their own experience and learning all the techniques and how to respond, what to recognize. And it's not only exciting, but it's a fun class. So it's been a pleasure to work with the Monroe Institute.
How can having out-of-body experiences enrich a person's day-to-day life?
Well, it gives you, number one, it gives you a much broader perception of what is important, what is reality. Let's face it, the vast majority of people think that this physical world is the only reality. And once you realize that it puts the universe, I feel, your personal life in so much better clarity and context. You don't sweat the small stuff, for lack of a better word. You know that you continued. Fear-based thoughts dissolve away. For instance, I had stage 4 cancer in 2011. Many people don't even know that, and I was facing my own physical death. And I know from my experiences that it didn't exist. So I could face that experience totally, totally free of fear. And that's one of the great advantages. You have this vision and knowledge that, yes, I'm immortal. I'm not afraid of what happens next. I will continue. And this is a great blessing for people, because that's one of the great fears of our entire world. Because let's face it, everybody's afraid of death.
Of course.
People generally don't even want to talk about it. And what I found is that, it's not only through my own experiences, but others, it's essentially just another out-of-body experience where you continue to explore. So it opens you to a whole different world of what you are and where you're going. And I think it just makes your entire life much more exciting because you get this greater vision of what we are.
William, you and I have to say so long for tonight, but I do want to thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you. Continued success, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X Zone, or, who knows, when I have an out-of-body experience. It's always a great pleasure.
It's always a pleasure.
Take care of yourself, my friend. Regards to the family.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Exonation, William Buhlman has been my guest this hour. He's got a great new book. It's available at Amazon entitled Adventures in the Afterlife. And if for more information on William, you can always visit his website at astralinfo.org. That's astralinfo.org. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.